Welcome to Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Chris.
And I'm Lorenzo.
And welcome to this week's Thoughtful Thursday. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at Hacking Your Leadership and leave us a review on iTunes. Also, check out our YouTube and Patreon pages. The links are in the podcast description. On this episode, I want to talk about the concept of paid time off and how there are a number of people who are kind of trying to figure out ways to use the time they've accrued over the last few years when they could kind of just do whatever they wanted to do without having to use it before in some organizations it goes away or stops rolling over. And I'm wondering if you thought about this at all, because there are a lot of companies out there where they're going to have to figure out how to, make sure they have enough people to help and allow people to use these things because no one wants to lose the time off they've accrued.
Yeah, I'm a fan of paid time off.
Yeah, we all are.
And it's I think it's just something that to your point, over the last 18 months or so, those that may have been working from home and getting time, to spend time with family, to work on hobbies while also getting their work done and figuring out new ways to work. I can speak for myself personally, that and then coupled with a lot of just, thoughts and concerns about health and safety meant that, didn't do a lot of traveling, didn't do a lot of vacationing. I think one of the things that I think companies will have to either do is either extend probably deadlines for some of these things, or I think some companies have even opted towards doing things like, vacation cash out and allowing people to cash out the time so that you're not necessarily losing it. However, at the same time, you can't have a bunch of people with a bunch of vacation time trying to get it all in like 3 months. Like, that's going to be really, really difficult. So I think it's something that, the more that I talk to friends and peers and other people in different industries, it's definitely a hot topic right now. People are talking about traveling. They're talking about vacation. The people are getting back into offices and back into workplaces. And it is a topic that's definitely top of mind.
Right, for sure. There's been a kind of a growing trend over, pre-pandemic and then probably, through it as well, of a lot of organizations, and it happens in a lot of organizations where there was kind of a remote work or a flexible work environment already, this concept of unlimited paid time off. And, when you hear it, if you've never heard the term before and you hear it for the first time, the first thing you think is, oh my gosh, what an amazing company to work for, unlimited paid time off. And, like anything else, it's a tool and it can be used for good and bad. And there are organizations where there's a strong culture of understanding that people need time off in order to take care of themselves and to keep a good, healthy balance of work and life. And if unlimited paid time off also comes with an ability to feel like you can actually take the time off when you want it, then that's great. I'm all for that. But then there are other organizations that have unlimited paid time off, but it comes with a culture of you can't take the time off, we're too busy right now. All right, it's just, this isn't the right time, And it's never nefarious. It's not how dare you want to take time off. It's always, well, maybe not right now. Can you just wait a little bit? We're right in the middle of a project or this or that. There's always a reason. And then what it has led to is I know people who have left organizations for different reasons after being with them for 3 or 4 or 5 years with unlimited paid time off. And they didn't take hardly any vacations, maybe a week off every year or a week every 2 years. And when they left the organization, they didn't even have that like kind of massive payout check that you get when you realize that, hey, I should have taken more vacation, but I didn't. But hey, here's a check for $12,000 as I leave the organization because of all the stuff that I didn't use when I was there. And so what I want to ask you, Lorenzo, is this a thing where you think, can leaders be trusted to have environments like unlimited paid time off or use it or lose it time off? Or do you think there has to be more structure in place to kind of protect people from themselves? But before you answer that, I want to give it up to a word from one of our sponsors. All right, Lorenzo, so what do you think? Can people be trusted to kind of do the right thing? Can organizations, can HR teams and leaders just kind of say, yeah, just let people do what they want. We know they're going to get their work done. If they want to take time off, they can do it. Can we live in that world, or do we need to have some structure?
I don't know. I think I'm actually a bigger fan of the structure. I love the idea of unlimited time off. Like, I like that idea. It sounds really, really good. I like more, though, the structure, and to a point, I like there to be some type of like a cap or a deadline, only because I think that focuses people on actually taking the time off. Whether you want to or not, you end up having to take it. And then I think that it also then, if that is the same expectation up and down, then I think everybody that needs to take the time off, is going to have to take the time off, and that's going to allow you to feel more comfortable in that space of knowing that your boss or your boss's boss may have had time off. Well, now you can ask for your time off, and then people feel a certain way about like, well, I can't tell you no if I took it. So like I kind of like that idea. And if you're going to do structure, and if you're really going to commit and dedicate yourself to saying that we want people to refresh and we want people to take time off, I'm even okay with companies saying, here's how you accrue your time off. You must be used, by this amount of time, and you have to schedule at least 1 week, a quarter or whatever, to tell us when that time off is going to be. Like almost like forcing people to take it.
Yeah.
Because again, I think that people are also built differently, and when you have diverse work groups, there are culturally people that will either want to take the time off and do it all the time, or some that will say like, no, like I don't want to, I don't need to, like I want to work hard and put my head down. And so I kind of like that idea of not only saying that it's important for people to recharge and refresh, but actually having some structure to make sure that it's happening.
Right. I remember a few years ago the country of France passed a law that said that company leaders were not allowed to send email to people when they weren't at work. They couldn't even send it when they weren't at home. And my reaction to that was, that's absolutely ridiculous. Like sometimes if you get your best work done at a certain time and you want to send emails, you should be able to do that. The solution clearly is to make sure that the employee receiving it isn't held accountable to respond to it at 9:00 at night when they're or with their family. But to stop people from sending it seemed short-sighted. But it was rooted in this idea that people, even if they're not implicitly told they must do something, some will opt into doing it because they believe that's how you get ahead, or that people remember your name for the next promotion, or whatever it is, and which on a long enough timeline favors people who cut out everything from their life besides what their job is. And like it or not, that's unhealthy. It's unhealthy to have people working for you who have nothing else going on for them besides their job. You need to have that healthy balance. You need to have that work-life balance, even if the things that drive you that have nothing to do with work are different than your coworkers. It doesn't matter whether you're married or not, or have kids or not, or have specific hobbies or not. There needs to be time that you use for you, and this kind of this tendency to want to define ourselves by what we do, to the point where it becomes, if we lack the job, we don't have a sense of self anymore. That's when it becomes unhealthy. And so, yeah, I think part of leadership is making sure people have the tools necessary to kind of make that happen. I think it's just so hard to structure it in a way that says, okay, make sure you check off these 6 boxes and then it will happen. To me, it goes back to the relationship. Do I have a relationship with my individual people where I talk to them and I understand what's going on, and I understand that they know, not because the policy says I can't hold them accountable to taking vacation. It can't opt them out for the next promotion. Nobody cares what that says anyway. They want to know that I've told them as their boss, just so you know, this isn't going to hurt. Watch, see the vacation I took last month? You should take one if you want to take one. It's not going to opt you out of anything. It's not going to make you less likely. I don't care that your coworker hasn't taken a day off in 72 years. If this is important to you, it's important to me that it happens for you.
Yeah, I think that's the secret sauce. I think really it comes down to if as a leader of people, if you have this belief that people need the time to refresh and relax, and if you feel that this is good for people to have that break from work, then you should be talking about that. You should be talking about it and asking them about, like, do you have any time off coming up? Have you thought about that? Or if you have access to understand like how much time they've accrued, in some instances, letting them know, hey, I see that you have a lot of accrual in your time off. Like, this is something that I really want for you, that I think that everybody needs. I don't care what you do with the time, but please take some, and if it's a weekend, if it's a week, if it's 2 weeks, like whatever it is that you want to do, but make sure that you're taking that time, because we all need a refresh. We all need a recharge. It's good. And I'm asking you to consider it. And again, I think that if you're leading a team that way, building relationships that way, and you're making it a priority, you're allowing that to be a good conversation, then I absolutely believe that, people will appreciate that. But at the same time, I also know people that, will take as many vacations as possible. And sometimes in the real world, when you are absent from work that consistently, that can be difficult in having a continuity in the work that you're doing or the commitments that you're making or things like that. And so like there is this kind of middle ground gray area of making sure that you're having time to refresh and recharge while also not taking so much time that it's impacting your work as a result of you not being accessible to get the work done.
Right. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I did some volunteer work as a crisis counselor for a company called Crisis Text Line a few years back. And it's basically, it's a text-based program that allows people to text in when they're in a period of crisis and they want somebody to talk to, but they don't feel comfortable having a conversation over the phone. And it was a volunteer spot, and I enjoyed every minute of doing it. They did have paid people that kind of orchestrated it. And one of the parts of being a paid person at this organization was almost a forced sabbatical that happened after you'd been with the organization for, I think it was 3 years. And when people were coming up on their 3-year anniversary, the planning for this happened, 6 months or almost a year in advance of this, of what are you going to do? And it was a forced sabbatical to go do volunteer work for any organization that kind of hit you in the heartstrings, something you were passionate about. And if it was on the other side of the world, the company would pay to fly you there, and you would just make whatever salary you normally made when you were working. You just continue to make that while you were on this sabbatical. And it was like a 6-month sabbatical where you just could pick up right where you left off when you got back to work. And I thought, that's just an amazing kind of concept where you plan for it far enough in advance, people know it's coming up, and it's such an ingrained part of the culture that it becomes something people look forward to, as opposed to where people are thinking, ooh, am I hurting myself by doing this? What are the trade-offs here? What is my boss going to think? That's when you know that's a problem in your organization, is if the individual person is thinking, I'm making this decision, whether vacation or not based on what I need or what I want for myself, but based on what I think other people are going to think of me. That's kind of a litmus test. If you don't have that, I think it's awesome. If you do have that, whatever your policies are probably need to change, or the relationships need to change.
Absolutely. And with that, it brings us to the end of this episode. This is Hacking Your Leadership. I'm Lorenzo.
And I'm Chris.
And have a great day.